You ever walk into a room thinking it's just another Monday, only to find out fate's been warming up in the parking lot with brass knuckles? That was Ariel Vaughn's morning. Downtown Atlanta. Courtroom 3B, supposed to be quick. A baby trespassing case, one of those BS charges cops toss around when they're bored or pissed or both. Ariel. She's 27, black, sharp as a switchblade in heels, graduated top of her class, always with that try-me glint behind her glasses. She doesn't walk into rooms, she arrives. Today, she's representing a 19-year-old kid caught sleeping behind a closed auto shop. No property damage, no stolen anything, just existing in the wrong zip code with dark skin and no money. Atlanta knows that story too well. The cop who made the arrest? Sergeant Rick Delaney, built like a 90s action figure and just as emotionally complex. The kind of guy who refers to community cleanups as clean sweeps and thinks racism is a myth cooked up by college kids. Dude practically radiates you people energy. Soon as Ariel stepped in, Delaney locked eyes with her like she keyed his cruiser. Real hostile, right out the gate. But she wasn't fazed. Court's her stage, and she was ready to light it up. She questioned his timeline on the stand. Simple cross-examination stuff. But Delaney? He didn't like being questioned. Got all red in the ears, like a toddler being told no. Then he said it. Loud, clear, ugly. Another loud black girl who doesn't know her place. And just like that, time stopped. You could feel the air change, like somebody cracked a window in a hurricane. Even the court stenographer paused, fingers hovering mid-word. Delaney leaned back with a smug, little smirk, thinking he'd just put her in her place. Yeah, no. See, what Delaney didn't know, or maybe didn't bother to check, is that Ariel Vaughn ain't just any defense attorney. She's the Ariel Vaughn, daughter of federal judge Lionel Vaughn. Yeah, that one. The one that taught half the sitting bench in the state how to swing a gavel without blinking. Ariel straightened her spine like a skyscraper. Didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Her client looked up like he'd just seen a lightning bolt in a bottle. The judge, presiding, an older white guy with a neck that always looked freshly sunburnt, shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing, of course. And Ariel? She leaned into her mic, voice steady, calm but icy enough to chill boiling water. Your Honor, I'd like the court to note Sergeant Delaney's racially charged outburst on record. Now, that got attention. Whispers started. Phones came out. The clerk side-eyed the judge like, you gonna handle this or nah? Delaney tried to interrupt, but Ariel was already mid-nuclear. I'm also submitting a formal complaint with the State Bar regarding this courtroom's failure to immediately respond to an officer using racist language toward opposing counsel. And then she dropped the hammer. I'll also be reaching out to my father regarding a potential judicial review of this court's handling of racial misconduct. That's when Delaney's face dropped like a stock market crash. Judge Vaughn's daughter, in his courtroom, calling for heads. 4 minutes later, phones were ringing up the food chain, emails firing off to the Judicial Ethics Commission. Sergeant Delaney's name, suddenly not a badge of honor, but a flashing red flag. See, in this system, racist cops like to assume the folks they're targeting don't have power, just problems. But sometimes they mess around and slap the wrong loud black girl. And then the empire starts to crumble. 3 minutes, that's all it took. Not a fist, not a scream. Just precision, power, and a voice Ariel Vaughn refused to let anyone shrink. Still standing, still ice-cold calm after Delaney's little racist meltdown, Ariel didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She raised receipts, slid her phone out of her blazer pocket with the same energy you'd expect from someone pulling a sword from stone. Your Honor, she said, eyes never leaving Delaney's beet-red face. I'd like to introduce new information relevant to this officer's conduct. And just like that, boom, she tapped her screen. The audio connected to a Bluetooth speaker someone in the gallery had set up. Bless Gen Z attorneys and their readiness. Her voice rang out, strong and clear, reading from a court filing that hadn't seen the light of day. Not until now. A civil rights complaint filed 4 months ago, she said. Latino male, age 17. Stop and frisk turned into a beatdown. Video lost, complaint closed by Internal Affairs with no follow-up. Guess who the arresting officer was? She didn't even have to say it. Half the courtroom turned toward Delaney like a wave of disgust. His smirk was gone. His jaw was tight. And the judge? He suddenly looked like someone realizing the gas stove's been on the whole time. "I didn't touch that kid," Delaney started, voice cracking like a guilty floorboard. Ariel cut him off with surgical coldness. "I didn't say you touched him. The victim did. And now it's part of the record." The room was vibrating now. Lawyers whispering, someone in the gallery recording, the court clerk blinking like she was trying to stay invisible. "And since we're here," Ariel continued, like she wasn't just dragging Delaney, but the entire rotten structure he stood on, "I'm filing a formal petition for judicial review of this court's handling of officer misconduct. Effective immediately." The judge straightened, suddenly trying to sound like he was still running the show. "Ms. Vaughn, let's be reasonable." "I am," she snapped. "Reasonable enough to request oversight from the Department of Justice. This officer's conduct toward me, combined with a pattern of racially targeted arrests and threats, meets the threshold for federal review." "You could have heard a feather hit the floor." Then came the kill shot. "I've also notified my father," she said. "He's en route with federal counsel. You may want to clear your calendar, Your Honor." Boom. The silence cracked, then shattered. A low, "Oh shit," echoed from the back. Delaney looked like he'd just stepped into a bear trap. The judge reached for his water but missed the glass. One reporter literally ran out of the courtroom with their phone on speaker. Ariel didn't flinch. "You good, Your Honor?" she asked sweetly, like they weren't standing in the middle of an implosion. He didn't answer, because at that exact moment, his clerk leaned in, whispering something that drained every last drop of blood from his face. A black SUV just pulled into the lot. Judge Lionel Vaughn had arrived, and the storm, it wasn't coming. It was already here. The courtroom doors swung open like the damn wind itself respected the man walking through. Black suit, no robe, no pomp, just presence. Judge Lionel Vaughn didn't speak when he entered. He didn't have to. Everyone stood, not because protocol said so, but because something in their spine told them, "Stand the hell up." Two DOJ officials flanked him, matching his stride, like gravity had a posse. One carried a briefcase, the other, a folder marked "Confidential, Oversight Initiated." And Delaney? He froze, like he'd just seen his karma walk in wearing polished shoes and federal backing. Judge Vaughn didn't spare him a glance, not even a flick of the eye. He went straight for the bench. The presiding judge, already pale and sweating, opened his mouth to fumble a greeting. But Judge Vaughn didn't let a syllable fall. "The DOJ is officially launching an inquiry into officer misconduct," Vaughn said, voice deep and deliberate. "Court complicity and prosecutorial bias in the handling of Officer Delaney's cases. Effective immediately." Boom, earthquake. No yelling, no theatrics. Just federal thunder rolled into a single, polished sentence. Every word felt like it weighed 50 pounds. And the silence that followed? That was respect. And fear. Equal parts. Delaney's smirk didn't just fade, it died. His lips barely moved as he leaned toward the DA beside him, voice thin as regret. "You said she was just a junior lawyer." The DA didn't even look back. "She's not," he muttered, eyes locked on Vaughn. "She's a Vaughn." That name landed like a goddamn gavel. See, in the legal world, especially in the South, the Vaughns aren't just a family. They're a line. A legacy of justice sharp enough to slice through steel. Lionel Vaughn is the judge who once made a sitting senator cry on the stand. The kind of man who doesn't check weather reports. He changes the forecast. Ariel didn't inherit his name. She inherited his spine. While the courtroom rippled with shock, Ariel stood still, hands clasped, calm. She'd known he'd come, not because she called him, but because she knew the kind of fire she was walking into. And Judge Vaughn? He didn't let his daughter fight fire without a goddamn flamethrower behind her. He turned to the clerk, nodded once. "Record begins now," he said. The DOJ rep opened the folder, slid 3 sealed envelopes to the bench. "Subpoenas," she announced. "Internal affairs records, communications between Officer Delaney and the district attorney's office, and sealed files from 5 suppressed civil rights complaints." The judge on the bench blinked hard, like the gravity of it all just hit him in the chest. He glanced down at the documents like they were about to burn his fingers. Lionel stepped closer. "I'd advise this court," he said, calm but cold, to begin preparing a transfer of all pending cases related to Officer Delaney. Any hesitation will be noted as obstruction. Delaney tried to speak, probably some half-cooked excuse, but the words stuck. Because for the first time in his entire career of badge-backed bullying, he was in a room where his uniform didn't protect him, where his lies couldn't hide behind procedure, where the law wasn't just written on paper. It was standing right in front of him, wearing a black suit and bearing the name Vaughn. 48 hours, that's how long it took for the dam to break. One federal subpoena signed off by Judge Lionel Vaughn. And suddenly all those files that were accidentally archived or misplaced during a system migration, magically back from the dead. Civil rights complaints, internal memos, suppressed testimonies, body cam footage that had been officially labeled missing due to technical error, all located on a quiet internal server hidden behind a firewall labeled training resources. Cute. They thought they were slick. Turns out they were just sloppy. And now, every case Delaney ever touched is under the microscope. And not the local kind either. We're talking full DOJ audit, gloves off, light shining in every dusty corner. But the real crack in the concrete, whistleblowers. They started with a whisper. Then came the flood. Junior prosecutors, scared but done being complicit, started stepping forward. One of them, still in his 20s, testified that he was strongly advised to drop charges when Delaney's name was involved. Internal pressure. Protect the badge. That kind of bull. Then a former detainee, a black veteran, arrested for resisting during a traffic stop. No body cam, no report. Said Delaney slammed his face into the pavement and told him, "Your uniform don't mean shit to me now." His statement, it matches one found in the re-emerged files word for word. But the dagger? Delaney's own ex-partner. Yeah, that part. She came in with a stack of notes, backup drives, timestamps. Said she couldn't stay quiet anymore. Confirmed it all. Evidence tampering, intimidation tactics, racial profiling, beatings that disappeared in the system. Said Delaney once bragged about cleaning up the streets one punk at a time. And every time IA got close, someone upstairs hit pause. The silence that once covered this city like a shroud, now it was screaming. And at the center of the noise, Ariel Vaughn. Not yelling, not gloating, just moving, methodically, relentlessly. She's not fighting for just one client anymore. She's fighting for every name that disappeared into police reports rewritten like bad fan fiction. She's in and out of courtrooms like a storm with a mission, coordinating with DOJ staffers, combing through case law, circling names on whiteboards in her office. Her phone, blowing up. Reporters want statements. Survivors want to be heard. Activists want to march behind her. And she doesn't flinch, because this is personal. This isn't just about Delaney. It's about the DA who sat on every file. It's about the judge who kept cases off the docket for review. It's about the city councilman who once toasted Delaney with champagne at a re-election fundraiser and called him a hero of the streets. Every layer compromised. And Ariel, she's not here to fix the system. She's here to expose it. "I didn't come to play courtroom chess," she said at a late-night press update. "I came to flip the whole damn board." And people listened. Because when a Vaughn speaks, the city finally hears. It started with a press release. By noon, it was everywhere. Sergeant Rick Delaney indicted on federal charges. Obstruction, perjury, assault under color of law, conspiracy. The headline burned across news tickers like a warning shot. But the real pain wasn't in the charges. It was in what came next. Because this wasn't just about him anymore. It never was. 4 prosecutors, 2 police captains, 1 deputy mayor, all named, all indicted, all tied to the same sick network of cover-ups, kickbacks, and backroom handshakes that made Charleston's legal system more swamp than structure. Delaney had spent years operating with impunity, planting fear like seeds, watering it with silence. But now, he was locked in a gray-walled federal holding cell with no badge, no gun, and no one left to cover his ass. His lawyer tried to make a move, claimed Delaney was just a product of the system, a good cop who got caught up in bad orders. But the system was already turning on him. Internal Affairs dropped their own receipts. DOJ investigators dropped 2 terabytes of digital proof. And when a junior ADA came forward with a signed memo from Delaney instructing him to lose evidence in a wrongful arrest case. Game over. He tried to flip, tried to talk. But the thing about snitches in a system this dirty, they don't get leverage. They just get left behind. And while Delaney stewed in his own sweat, the rest of the city watched something far more powerful unfold. Arielle Vaughn on the courthouse steps, fire in her voice and lightning behind her eyes. Microphones clustered in front of her. The crowd leaned in. But she didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "This isn't vengeance," she said, her tone smooth and steel-cold. "This is exposure." She glanced out at the people gathered. Survivors, supporters, even reporters who'd once shrugged off her name like she was just another young attorney punching above her weight. And we're not done. Flashbulbs, applause, whispers turning into roars. And behind her, the silhouette of power itself, Judge Lionel Vaughn. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. He stood there like a monument built from every case he ever fought, every lie he ever struck down in court. Silent, proud, unshakable. The badge that once made Delaney untouchable, now it was the heaviest piece of metal around his neck. And as the courthouse buzzed with reporters and reformers and regular people who had waited years to see justice move like this, Delaney sat in silence. Watching the press conference from a grainy jailhouse TV screen bolted to the wall, watching the woman he once dismissed as just a junior lawyer take apart the world that protected him, brick by brick. No plea deal was coming, no clean getaway. No rerun of the old games. Because the badge, it finally broke. 3 months later, the city looked the same. Same streets, same skyline, same courthouse with the same neoclassical columns, holding up a building that once held so much silence. But inside, everything had changed. And so had Arielle Vaughn. She wasn't just a defense attorney anymore. She was Deputy Special Counsel, the youngest ever appointed in Georgia's DOJ office. The woman who tore open Charleston's corruption like an old scar and demanded it bleed where everyone could see it. Now, her mission had teeth, permanent police reform, not task force, not review board, permanent. She walked into her new office in a tailored suit that hit like armor, a binder in one hand and a mission in the other. Calls were coming in from Atlanta, D.C., even L.A., cities with their own cracks in the concrete, asking how she did it. But Arielle didn't want applause. She wanted structure, policy, accountability that didn't buckle under pressure. Behind her on the wall hung the oath of office, freshly signed. But in her drawer, folded like a secret weapon, was the real legacy. A handwritten note from her father, left on her desk the day he quietly retired. "Finish what I started." That was Lionel Vaughn's way. Never loud, never dramatic. Just truth delivered with surgical precision. He'd stepped out of the spotlight without a press release. Just packed his things, left his robe, and trusted the city to someone stronger. And damn if he wasn't right. The courtroom where it all began, where Delaney called her just another loud black girl, now had a plaque near the entrance. Not flashy, not gold, simple. In honor of the day they fought back. Tourists passed it. Young law students took selfies with it. Judges walked by and nodded. Some with respect, some with shame. Depends on who they were in that room 3 months ago. And Arielle, she visited it once, alone, no cameras, just stood there and breathed it in. Not as a symbol, but as proof. The system had tried to chew her up, spit her out like it had done to so many others before her. But she didn't break. She bent the system around her. She took every insult, every delay, every damn sealed file they tried to bury her with. And she built something better. Something loud, something unignorable. Now, she walks into rooms where people rise before she speaks. Not because of fear, but because of what she represents. Change that showed up in heels, held the line, and didn't blink. Legacy, she learned, isn't what you inherit. It's what you weaponize. And Arielle Vaughn, she's just getting started.